Hey guys, so I've gotten a lot of requests to revisit Spectrum Noir since they introduced a new body type, and my order from Overstock, which was much awaited for 2 sets and some spare nibs, just arrived. I've had a set of browns for about a week that I've been holding off, and I double checked to make sure there was no overlap. So today I'm going to do an overview of the Spectrum Noir markers, comparing them to the old body type, and comparing them as well to some popular alcohol markers that are have been in the US for a little bit longer. So, you guys may be more familiar with seeing the Spectrum Noir sets sold in like a cardboard blister pack like this. These are what you can find at Joann's. You can also find the sets sold in their UK packaging for the 24 set on Overstock, which is where I got mine, or on Amazon, or I'm sure there are lots of other marker suppliers that carry the Spectrum Noir markers in this set. So I already de-plasticed my UK set, and now I'm about to open up my American set, and there's a staple in the bottom that keeps it from just sliding out, which I can understand, but it kind of makes unpackaging it a little bit annoying. Now for these more common in the US sets, they're sold in sets of 6, and I have previously purchased a set of the 6 gray tones in the first generation body, but I gave those away after reviewing them because I couldn't see myself using them. So this body has twin tips and it's hexagonal in shape. There is a color family and color name on the tip, and there isn't a whole lot of body screening. And these colors, at least according to the packaging, don't have like kind of fion frou-frou names. It's just like GB10 rather than, I don't know, light umber. And the caps do not post. And it comes with a bullet nib and a chisel nib. But unlike the other Spectrum Noir markers, I have one of which here for demonstration purposes, the nibs on these are replaceable with the Spectrum Noir brush nibs. So I bought a few of those because I can't stand bullet nibs. And they are refillable, and it's getting to be more common to find the inks online. I have yet to see them in person, but I mean, I've also only seen the Spectrum Noir markers at Joann's, and they had a pretty big selection, and my Joann's may just not have carried the ink. But these are my browns, because if you guys know anything about me, you know I really need to do skin tones. So let's see if the UK version is any different. I do like the case better. It's a little more substantial, and they look to be just about the same. Of course, the case doesn't hold the markers in place. They tend to shift. But they do sell stacking marker units to hold your Spectrum Noir markers. I don't have any, not because there's anything wrong with them, but just because I really don't have room for them in my studio as it is. So let's compare the new generation of Spectrum Noir markers with the original. And I will zoom in for you guys. So both have body screening on the front that only says, well, on the original it says the name, and then on the back it designates the fine bullet nib and the chisel nib, whereas on here it's molded into the plastic grip. They're roughly the same size. Both body designs are designed not to roll. The hexagonal body shape is fairly similar to their new Spectrum Aqua markers, of which through the magic of editing one has suddenly appeared. Now with the Spectrum Aqua marker, the brush is more generous than the chisel nib that's included on either of the Spectrum Aqua markers. I mean the bullet nib, I'm sorry. And unlike the alcohol markers, the Spectrum Aqua also has a detailing tip rather than a chisel nib. And the chisel nib is not that different between generations. It looks like the original Spectrum Noir was a little bit bigger. I brought out some other alcohol marker brands for comparison. Let me move that out of the way a little bit. So we have a Copic Sketch, a Prismacolor brush tip, a Mexby brush tip, a Shinhan Twin Touch, and a Winsor & Newton brush marker. And let me just get all the caps off for you, and I can start explaining the different markers. So, the Spectrum Noirs are intended to be refillable, as I mentioned below, and now they have replaceable nibs. I think both the chisel, well, I know the chisel is replaceable. I don't think the bullet nib is intended to be replaceable. So they are similar to Copic, Shinhan Twin Touch, and Mexby because all of those markers are refillable. The brush marker and the Prismacolor are not refillable. In the past, Spectrum Noir markers have been marketed primarily towards crafters and stampers, and I don't think that's changed. I think that's still their main demographic, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just interested in reviewing crafting supplies as they might be relevant to artists, and these are alcohol markers, they're definitely relevant to artists. Now on Amazon, for the 6-piece Next Generation set, you can expect to pay between $11 and $13. You can also get the larger 24 sets for $38 through $46, which is actually a really good price when you consider that you can change out the nibs, and this will add additional expense, but you can refill them, so they're designed to last a long time. So I'm going to do some initial swatching, and I also want to demonstrate the chisel nib before I replace it off. So I'm going to start with my 6-piece browns, which again I picked up as a skin tone set. And then I'll move on to the other 2 collections that I own. Since the markers won't stay in place within their respective pouches anyway, I've decided to sort them into rough color families and then swatch from there. So right now I have the Fs, and I'm assuming F means like a flesh tone. So I'm going to go ahead and organize them really quick, and then begin swatching. And I've already noticed that the colors indicated on the cap don't at all match the swatches. So making your own swatches is really important with these. Spectrum Noir really needs to work on their cap accuracy. And now BG, which I assume is blue-green, but it could even be blue-gray. honestly, the cap isn't a whole lot of help. And then BT, maybe that's the blue-green? I'm going to have to look up a color chart just to understand what these names mean. Now we can move on to the dark set, which got a little pushed out of shape in transit from Overstock. It's kind of the first time I've ever had that happen. And with the sets, if you buy the either the 24-piece sets or the 6-piece sets, if you stick with 24-piece sets and you only buy those, you shouldn't get any overlap. And if you stick with the 6-piece sets and only buy those, you shouldn't get any overlap. The problem is when you start mixing the two, but it does say which colors come in which colors come in each set on the outside of the box. So that should make it a little bit easier. I know with Copic, sometimes it can be hard to find out which colors come with each set. And here's another instance where the ink interior is so much lighter than the cap. So really, you should rely on your swatches. Don't rely on the barrel of the pen. And a lot of the skin tones I didn't get, well, they just look like skin tones, I guess. There are a lot of browns, I should say, in the darks set, which is one of the reasons why I purchased it. So even with 48 plus 6, that's 54. Even with 54 colors to choose from, I still feel like, other than just like a mass of grays, it's going to be hard for me to blend colors. So that's one of my issues with Spectrum Noir that hasn't changed. And also, there isn't a blender marker included, so that means I have, in any of these sets, so that means I have to go out and find one open stock. And Amazon isn't really giving me great prices right now for the first generation, and wants $6.69 with Prime. And then there's also a 2-piece second generation kit that includes so it's got 2 markers and it's got a bottle of the blending solution, and they want $38.86 for that. So if your Joann's doesn't have a good stock of these, or your Michael's, or your local stamp store, or anywhere that you buy your alcohol markers doesn't have these for sale, you may have a hard time completing your collection or even getting a blender marker. And I have not seen these sold open stock. So if you only want to get a few colors to sort of like fill out a color family, well, you can buy the 6-piece set and maybe get some overlap, but you can't get them individually. So there are still some issues with Spectrum Noir as a marker system in general. But you know, I'm not going to give an official opinion until I've done my field test and until I've switched out some of my nibs. And I bought 4 packs of their brush nibs because they have 3 nibs each, which means I can do half of a set. And I also have my handy dandy Copic tweezers, which really are handy dandy. I've used them several times. So what I'm going to have to do is determine what colors I'm going to use the most and switch the nibs out on that. So I'll be right back. All right, so I think I've got my markers picked out, and the direction says that we should do this on the chisel nib side. And it doesn't really give much instruction other than that. Not suitable for children under 36 months though, so moms, don't give these to your kids as a toy. Well, I hope you have a pair of scissors or a knife handy, because without it, this packaging is pretty much impossible to get into. I've been working at it for about 5 minutes now. I'm feeling quite stupid because I am an adult and I am having so much trouble with something that should be so easy. So that's another thing I'd like to see Spectrum Noir possibly consider changing, is how difficult their replaceable brushes are to get into. It would also be nice if they included more brushes in the pack, considering the price, but I'll just take an easier to get into pack right now. For all that trouble, it's not even a reusable pack, it's a blister pack, which if you're really struggling, you might end up sending your nibs all over the house. So exercise caution when opening your Spectrum Noir nibs. Seriously, I'm on my 2nd pack and I use scissors and I cut across the top and nothing. It's like heavy sealed cardboard on all sides. I'm a little antsy about just like stabbing it in there in case I damage one of my nibs. Is there any reason for these to be so hard to get into? Are they afraid people are gonna steal them or something? Is that what's going on?